Hi everyone! Today is such a good day because not only do I get to play with something that is not Jeffree Star, no shade, but like maybe a little bit, but also Menagerie Cosmetics, which is one of my favorite brands, have come out with a new palette and she sent it to me and I am so excited to be able to show this to you guys, to play with it, to just have some fun. So I have already opened this and swatched this. I don't know why I put it back into the packaging, but I was like, maybe you guys care, maybe you don't. But here's what the packaging looks like. I'm going to take this out. Here is the palette itself. Obviously the artwork, just like with all of her other palettes, are absolutely beautiful. This is called the Killer Purr palette. I love the name of this. I just love how cohesive like all of her palettes are. I just think that they are so just well thought out and I love that. So this is the color story in the palette. If you're looking at this and thinking,
Annette, this isn't really your color story,
you're probably correct, but you know what? This is my favorite brand. She did send me this palette, and to be completely honest, if she didn't send this to me, I would have bought it anyway because I love Menagerie and you guys know this, and I basically buy everything they come out with. I even have their other kind of neutral palette and I like it, so I'm just excited. We're gonna go ahead and try this out. I will say I was scrolling on my feed the other day and I saw that Amy Loves Makeup, which is one of my friends here on YouTube. I'll have her channel linked down below, but I was just scrolling through and I saw her thumbnail on this palette, and in her thumbnail she had something saying different formula ? And immediately I went, what? Because I wasn't expecting that, and I didn't watch her video because I didn't want her opinion to sway my opinion in any way, so I don't know what to expect with this, but now I'm like, is there a new formula in this? But I did swatch it and I will say that the formula did seem maybe a little bit different. Like I felt like the mattes didn't swatch as creamy and smooth and intensely as they normally do. Like I feel like there's been some like small tweaks in the formula, and also the kind of teal shade didn't stain as much as the blues from Menagerie usually do, so I feel like maybe she's changed up a little bit. I don't know exactly what, but the shimmer formula seemed the same, but I'm just curious to see how these are going to apply on the eyes. I feel like they might be a little bit more on the buildable side now. I don't really know. We're gonna try it out though, so I'm gonna start by priming my eyes with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base like I always do. This palette is currently out of stock though, but I know it's going to restock at some point, so I will just have her site listed down below if you want to go check out any of the other stuff that she has. Now, I have said before, but this is one of my favorite brands and I would highly suggest pretty much anything on their site. So if you like what you see and you want to check out more from this brand, just go check it out. They have a lot of really cool stuff. They also sell all of the shadows in the palettes as single shadows if there's like 1 or 2 colors that maybe you want to pick up. I don't know if the ones in this palette are listed on the site yet, but I'm sure they will be at some point. So for today's look, I don't know what I want to do. The story of my life, but all I know is I want to have watering hole on my lower lash line, so I'm actually just going to start with that and just kind of see where we end up. That's all I know I want to do, and I don't even know why I want to do that. I just want to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and start by smudging this underneath my eye and just kind of see what happens and just go from there. So okay, that's very, very pigmented, just like I expected. And I love the tone of this. Oh, that's so beautiful. And you have no idea how nice it is to just be able to put on a pigmented shadow onto my eyes. I've been waiting for this moment for like a week now because that Jeffree Star palette did just not do it for me. Like some of the shadows in there, I was building and building and building for days and I still did not get the result that I wanted. And like, I get that some people don't want like super intense pigmented shadows, but I want my shadows to be what they look like in a pan. Like, I don't know if that's just me, but if I get a shadow and I put it on my eyes and it looks 3 times lighter than it does in the pan, like I don't feel like that's a good representation of the shadow that's supposed to be in the palette. Maybe that's just me, but I'm just happy to be putting something on my eyes that I can actually see, and that, you know, is what I expect it to be. So I think what I want to do next is I want to go into Mighty Roar, which is this kind of dark burgundy, purple, brown shade. I'm so bad at explaining colors. I am so sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and take this dark shade down here, and I think I'm gonna... Should I put this in my crease or just my outer corner? Let's start with the outer corner and just kind of see where we end up. So it does have quite a bit of kick up, but that's very common with Menagerie shadows here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and first tap out my creases on my eyeshadow primer. And then I'm just going to start by packing this on the outer corner of my eye here. You know what the shadow reminds me of? It reminds me so much of, what's it called? Rowdy in the Subculture palette. I don't know if that's what it's called, but like the darkest shade in this palette. I will pull that palette out and kind of compare the two after because I feel like these are almost identical. Like the undertone of this reminds me so much of that shadow. And this again is so nice and pigmented and intense here. I'm gonna pull this about 2/3 of the way in or so. I don't really know exactly where I'm going with this. I guess I'll start blending it into my crease a little bit and like pulling it through, but I do think I want to use another shadow to kind of blend this out with as well. And I really like that how using a little bit less pressure here, I'm able to pull the shadow in without it being as pigmented as it is on my outer corner here, and kind of adjust the intensity the way that I want it to be. And this video might end up being a little bit all over the place, but I was actually talking to my sister-in-law today. She just moved to Vegas, her and her boyfriend, and I asked her today if she wanted to film a video with me tomorrow, so I think we're gonna film a first impression with the Nomad Cosmetics Tokyo palette tomorrow, so hope you guys are excited for that. I've never had anybody on my channel before, so I'm really excited if this ends up happening. She's really good at makeup. She's actually the one that got me into makeup, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in that video. So I'm really excited to be able to film with someone else, even though I'm like nervous because that's scary. I don't know if that's just me, but the thought of having someone else film with me is like, I don't want anybody to see how much I mess up when I do these videos, because I am a mess. Like, my whole life is a mess. Okay, not really, but like, I'm a mess. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how that develops. And I'm just making sure that the shadow is like somewhat blended before I go in with my next shadow here, just so that I don't end up having like a bit of a streak in my crease. So I think the one I want to use to kind of blend this out with is going to be the Hunt, which is this kind of, here we go again. It's like a warm toned orange, I guess you can call this. And I'm just gonna go ahead and run that right over that kind of purpley shade that I put down, and just see how, or where we end up. I feel like I'm just like in the mood to match my scarf today. I don't know, but I feel like some of these colors are like still in my scarf, so it's going to be a very cohesive look for once in my life, which usually never happens. And this shadow is going on the eyes very, very nicely. I don't feel like this is as intense upon like first application, but I also didn't really go in and like pack this on like I did with the first one. But this is really, really nice to blend out the shadow with. I mean, this is just blending out so nicely. I love how that is looking. And I really like that despite this being like a neutral E palette, like there are still colors that you can use together with the neutrals to make it look less neutral, but there's also neutral colors that you could use by themselves to make it like an all neutral look, you know? I do think that the one thing that I feel like is missing in this palette is like a lighter shimmer, and I wish that both of the shimmers weren't so similar. Like, I don't feel like, let me just show you, because I feel like both of the shimmers here are just like two bronzes, just like in a little bit different depth and obviously different formulas, but I just wish that there was either like one more shimmer, because there are a lot of mattes in here, so it wouldn't hurt to have another shimmer, or that one of these shimmers were just a little bit different from the other. And I'm also probably going to have to pull in like an inner corner highlight from somewhere else, which isn't really a big deal, but I do like having a, you know, bright shimmery inner corner highlight for the most part, so I'm probably going to find something else to use along with this palette, but I mean, that's totally fine, because I feel like we all have a bunch of highlighters and, you know, other eyeshadows that we can use for that purpose. I'm gonna take a little bit more of that dark shade that I used in my outer corner here and just go back in with that and make sure that everything is blended together, so that I can kind of blend my lower lash line into this color and also the crease color into this color. So for my lid, obviously, there's only two shimmers in this palette, so we're just going to go ahead and try them both because I want to. So I'm first going to go ahead and take the darkest of them, which is called Lioness. The shadow is a little bit crumbly in the pan, so you want to be kind of careful when you dip your brush into it so you don't go in too hard. I'm going to go ahead and give this a spritz of some Fix Plus here. And I'm going to start by placing that in the middle of my lid. Probably did not pick up enough. That's better. So I've said before in the past that bronze kind of shades don't really do anything for me, which is why you don't see like a lot of excitement from me right now, because I never use bronze eyeshadows. But I do think it's a really, really nice shadow, and I think that a lot of people are really going to like this. But every time I see a bronze, I just think of like, YouTube glam makeup, and it's just not really my kind of thing. But like I said, I do think it's a nice shadow, and it blends in very nicely to these other colors here. So I think I did a tag in the past where someone asked me what my least favorite color in eyeshadows was, and I'm pretty sure I said browns or beiges, but honestly I feel like I would probably change my mind and say bronzes, because I don't like bronze eyeshadows. I don't know what it is. I find them really boring, and that has nothing to do with this palette at all, because the quality of the shadow is really nice. It's just that I just don't get excited about bronze eyeshadows, and I don't know why. So I'm gonna next go into Prowl here, which is a little bit lighter, kind of more of like a goldy bronze, and I feel like I'm gonna like the shadow a lot more. The shadow is also a little bit on the crumbly side, which is not my favorite. It's a little bit hard to pick up on a brush, like even when I use like a rough brush, I'm having a hard time like getting a good pickup here, but let me go ahead and spray this a bit as well. I find that that usually helps. And I'm gonna go ahead and place that on the rest of my lid here. Yeah, I'm really having a hard time picking up this shadow. Like it just ends up being a little bit flaky, and I feel like I'm the only one who has this problem with Menagerie shadows, but I really struggle to pick them up on my brush. But like once you get them onto your eyes and you're able to really press them down, they look really, really, really nice. It's just taking a little bit of extra time here. And I know I could definitely use my finger, but I don't like using my finger for eyeshadows. Actually, you know what? I do have something else I want to try with this. So I want to try to use one of these silicone applicators. This one is from the Sephora collection. I just want to see if I'm able to get a better application with this, because I really feel like I might. Yeah, wow, that made such a huge difference. Like that really picked up the shadow so much better. I feel like this is just the kind of shadow that you need to have like the right tools to be able to use properly if you are the kind of person that don't like to use your finger. But like, look how beautiful that is when you get it on the eyes. Like it's just so beautiful and foiled and metal looking. So I actually think for my inner corner, I want to use a little bit of Draught, which is this very, very pale yellow. And I am going to go ahead and take a little bit of my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base here and just pop that into my inner corner to kind of make room for that. I wish I had started with this, but I didn't realize until now that I wanted to try to use this. So I'm going to take a little bit of this just like right into my inner corner here where I want that shade to be. Gently blend that out a little bit before I go in with the shadow here. And I'm gonna take the shadow and I'm basically just going to press that right on top of where I put down that primer. And obviously this is a very pastel-y shade, so it's going to be hard for this to really pop without using a white base, but I do feel like it is definitely nice and pigmented and it's sticking to my eye very nicely. And I feel like it builds very nicely as well, so I actually really like this. Like I was a little bit worried about this shade because this is the kind of shade that's like really hard to perfect. And I was having a hard time with like the kind of neon shadow in the Jeffree Star palette, but I feel like this one is performing a lot better. Like I actually feel like this is true to pan on my eyes, which is really, really nice. I actually really like that. I might not even have to do anything else in my inner corner here. I can just keep building this up. Okay, the more I'm using this yellow, the more obsessed I am, and I can just keep piling this on because it's actually building so nicely. Oh, I actually really like that. That is such a fun color. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a color like this in an eyeshadow palette before. Isn't that so cute? I love that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish off, but I am going to take a little bit more of that first shade that I used, which was Watering Hole, and I just want to take a little bit more of this and just really smoke up underneath my eye to make sure that that is looking nice and blended here. Okay, I love this. I'm quite obsessed, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish off my eyes. This is so pretty. I like this a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and finish off, just put on some lighter mascara. I'm gonna do something in my waterline. Probably do yellow because I just can't help myself. Gonna use a little bit of Punch by ColourPop. Finish off, and then I'll come back and show you the look and talk a little bit more about this palette. So this is the final look, and I really like how this turned out. Is this a little neutral for my liking? Maybe a little bit. Like, if I had an option to put something other than a bronze shade on my lid, you better believe I would. But with that being the only one that was in this palette, I still really like this look, and I think that it all came together, especially with the waterline and the lipstick. I also used one from Menagerie, and this is in the shade Leo. These are quite drying, so I did put a gloss on top just because my lips are so mad at me right now. This is just the clear gloss from the Jeffree Star collection. Really like this. As for my thoughts on this palette, I think that the mattes all performed beautifully. I'm so obsessed with this matte yellow. I think this is so beautiful and so unique and nothing that I have in my collection already. And I feel like it performed really well and is also like still sticking to my eyes and not fading away, which is awesome. As for the rest of the palette, I think that all of the mattes performed really, really well. Not the biggest fan of this shade called Prowl, which I've had this complaint many times about the Menagerie shimmer formula. The some are just a little bit too crumbly and hard to work with for my liking, but once you get them on the eyes, they are absolutely stunning, but I just don't like high maintenance shadows. So other than that though, I really love this palette. So I mean, with there only being one shade in this palette that I don't absolutely love, I would like to say that this is a pretty darn good palette, and I would highly recommend it if you have been thinking about maybe picking this up. I think this is beautiful, and I just like how luxurious all of the palettes feel. Like they're very, very heavy and they just feel sturdy, and like a lot of money went into the packaging. And also all of these pans are magnetic, so you can depot them if you want to, which I think is amazing, and I wish that all brands did that. So overall, I love this palette. I love the brand. I can't wait to just play more with this. I'm going to do a 3 looks 1 palette with this. I've already decided because I want to play more with this palette. So that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know if you picked up this palette. Let me know what kind of looks you want to see me do with this palette. Please don't say all neutral because it's not happening. Other than that, thank you so much for watching as always. If you want to see some other Menagerie content that I have on my channel, I'll pop you up on the screen so you can keep watching. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.